Hey, how are you? Robert Crumb here. I just thought I'd stop by Talking Small Press Comics and see what you folks are up to. I haven't been on the scene lately. I'm over here in Europe, of course, but I did hear about Talking Small Press Comics, and I wanted to stop by and just say hello. So I'll let you fellas get on to your meeting now, but don't forget about me. I'm still around, and I'll be talking to you, and I'm watching.
Well, welcome to another episode of Talking Small Press Comics. This is episode 18. And actually, this was going to be a very different episode. So I think I'm going to let Steve Keeter tell you a little bit about what the episode was going to be.
What was it going to be? You want me to tell them about MegaCon?
Yeah. What happened to you on the way to MegaCon?
Yeah, I was supposed to go to MegaCon yesterday, and I paid like $65 for a one-day pass, and just before MegaCon, I had to let you know, I had planned, and I talked to some of my small press friends. I was hoping Tony Lorenz might be able to be there, and George Lane, and Gary Barker, and pals of mine. One by one, they started sending me messages that they wouldn't be able to make it. I knew there'd be some small press people, and also, I wanted to go there to go to Artist Alley and buy comics for us to review on the show. Larned and I had worked something out. But then I got up. I had a feeling of apprehension. I knew something didn't feel right. And then I checked the weather because I was leaving here like 11 o'clock in the morning, and they said there were going to be 100% chance of severe thunderstorms all afternoon, starting at 2 or 3 o'clock. And I'm thinking, even though the convention center is only like 5 miles away from where I am here, I'm thinking, I got to drive back home, and the traffic around the convention center, because this con is huge, is going to be unbelievable. But I says, okay, I'm a trooper. I'll do it, So I started out, and as soon as I got on the road to MegaCon, I'm several miles away, like I said, about 5 miles. It was incredible. It was gridlock. There was so much traffic, and once I got in, I could see all these other cars behind me for miles, and everybody was backed up, and the line, it wasn't moving, and I could see way ahead a stoplight, and it was red, and then it turned green, and guess what happened? Nothing. Then it turned red again, green, and then people, and this kept happening. We weren't advancing. Fine, once in a while, one car would get through the intersection.
Yeah.
And but then people started getting pissed off, so they started honking their horns and stuff, which didn't help the situation at all.
No.
And I was getting kind of stressed, like I'm 66 years old. I don't need this kind of aggravation. When I was younger, I'd put up with a lot, but now I just want to relax. So I was in that line for like 45 minutes, and it just slowly moved. And then in front of me, a couple of cars full of convention goers, in makeup and semi-costumes and stuff, wrecked. They ran into each other. Which stopped the line even more. It was like really intense, and after like 45 minutes of this, and I'm not getting anywhere, I said, you know what, I'm going back home. I got to the first exit I could find, and did a U-turn, went back home. No traffic at all going back. But these people they're dedicated. It's great. MegaCon has gotten really, really big.
I guess. It sounds like.
Yeah.
You probably couldn't have even moved when you got in there, walking around.
Like Comic-Con in San Diego, just really, really, really big. Maybe I should have left early in the morning. I think they opened at 8:30 or something. But no, it's my day off. I'm sleeping late, and then I'll go in and have a blast. But I didn't have a blast. I had an exasperating.
And we had plans. We had money available. Steve was going to buy all kinds of comics, and
you know, and in a sense, it seemed like most of my small press pals weren't going to be there anyway. I thought,
Yeah.
you know, I'll save it for the next convention. There'll be
Yeah.
other conventions. This did happen at the same weekend as Space.
Yeah.
Up in Ohio, Bob Corby's convention. A lot of our pals are up there. I know
Yeah.
Michael Nino, Tom Fellrath, and you know, some of my small press
Oh, a
pals
bunch of people. Yeah.
are
Maybe,
there. And
maybe we can both find a way to go next year. I couldn't
next
go this
year.
year because my wife had a knee operation, a replacement, and I couldn't leave her. She couldn't drive or anything, so I couldn't really leave her.
Sure.
But next year I can leave her. Hopefully.
You can leave her?
Yeah. And go to the con. Don't get me wrong here.
Well, we've got a year to plan. We've got a year
Yeah.
to plan for this, and you know, and I sent a message to Bob Corby, said sorry, I wanted to be there, you know, the stuff, and I was really looking forward to it, but I couldn't do Space.
It's
I
really neat.
couldn't do
It really
Space
is.
because I couldn't work it out travel wise, but
Yeah.
so I thought MegaCon would be a good substitute, but nah.
The
just a
travel
bust.
was worse to MegaCon than it would be to Ohio.
Right. It would have been a
coulda
lot
got to
easier to
Ohio
catch a
quicker.
plane to Ohio than
Yeah.
just to go 5 miles from my house. And I ended up having a nice, relaxing day anyway.
Yeah,
And I
well,
took
good.
the money that we had and I went online and I ordered a bunch of comic books for us to review from our
So,
pals.
In the future, we've got a number of shows coming up, and a number of comics will. I've already got a whole show for next week, and so does Steve. So
Where's that?
you're going to be seeing more of us, whether you want to or not.
There you go.
All right, let's get started with the first one, which is Amazing Little Comics. And the thing about these is they are amazing. Look at
And they're
this
little,
work. Look at that.
but that's Joe Bagdon.
This is Joe Bagdon, yeah. But my gosh,
And he's really talented.
what
my gosh.
great. Look at, here's the interior. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
This artwork is just fantastic.
Yeah. I love his use of the tones, the
Yeah.
tones that he has there.
Right.
It's just amazing.
Really well
Beautiful.
done. Really interesting story. You know, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a great little story.
Jarek.
And then also in here is our old friend Micah Weisenfeld.
Mike Weisenfeld
has a
has
story in
something
here.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about this story is, though, it's number 3. So if you haven't seen 1 and 2, and I had not, that's a little difficult to follow because I hadn't seen the first 2. But anyway, he has a great little story in here.
Yeah.
It's called Skull of the Muskrat.
It's pretty humorous.
Yeah.
Skull the Muskrat.
Yeah.
Michael Weisenfeld's kind of like science fiction and science fiction funny animal adventures.
Yeah.
A little bit of violence.
Quite different, but
Yeah.
interesting. And this one's to be continued, so there will be a number 4.
Well,
So
the Jarek Adventure, the one from that Joe Bagdon does in the front of the book,
hmm
you know, it's rather kind of clearly inspired by Lord of the Rings. We got goblins and we got dragons,
right.
and a lot of stuff. But he definitely puts his own spin on it, and you know, it's an exciting story, with a lot of action, and man, that artwork is beautiful.
The artwork is beautiful, and the production of the little book is fantastic. It's really a neat little book.
Yeah.
$1.50. Can't
This
go
is a
wrong.
mini comic.
Yeah.
Mini comic. You think
A
that's
true
small,
mini
right?
comic.
You,
Yeah.
you think that's small? You should see the next thing he published.
Oh, that's right. Let's take a look at that.
There goes my microphone.
Bagdon.
I knew that was going to happen.
Look at that.
Yep.
A micro comic.
Micro comic, and this comes in. I kind of just
Comes in a little package with a
Yeah,
couple
it's
other
hard
things.
not to destroy the package when you're trying to open it up. It looks like
Yeah.
this. You can see I got
It's
wrinkles and stuff. but I don't-
Self-made envelope.
Yeah,
And the cover to the envelope.
and you open it up, and it's a micro comic.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something somewhere. Joe said something about, you know, how he was on a budget or something, and the best way to get past that is to make little teeny comics.
Yeah, because he's got a little card here that lists 24 of these little mini comics.
That's right.
So you know
Where's my
exactly
card?
what to order from him.
Yep, that's right. So he's
And
got
along
24
with
of
that,
these.
He's thinking of doing what I would call a baseball card, but for cartoonists.
Jerry Bale. This is Jerry Bale's.
This is Jerry
Who,
Bale, and this is his info on the back of the baseball card.
One of the fathers of small press.
Yeah.
One of the first publishers of
I didn't know
superhero
his
fanzines.
name, but you do. You know his work.
He was a little before my time, just a little bit, but
Yeah.
he was let's see, he did Alter Ego with Roy Thomas, I think, right? Anyway, he was one of the first guys who did superhero comics.
And that was in
back
1961.
in the 1960s.
Yeah. In the
You know,
60s.
I
So
popped in
that's-
about 1969, you know, so
Yeah. So
he
that's
was ahead of me.
way back there. And who knew people were doing their own comics in the 60s other than the underground people, you know, those
Yeah.
guys.
How could you not, you know, when
Yeah.
the Silver Age sort of started with DC Comics in the late 60s, and then it continued with Marvel Comics, you know, but DC had Showcase and Green Lantern and The Flash and all that kind of stuff, the new versions. And then Marvel started with Fantastic Four, but it was a reawakening, an exciting era
Yeah.
where superhero comics became huge again.
Yeah.
It started then, and so how could you not be inspired if you were reading comics and you love comics and you had any talent at all? How could you not want to publish your own
Do
comics?
your own. Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
just like it's a
Here's
natural.
another
natural.
Here's another one he included, and this one is done with photographs and word bubbles.
Yes, and this lady is very well developed.
Yes. Exactly. Yes, it is. Yes, indeedy.
It's sort of a romance, and you know, I'm not sure exactly where he was going with this, but it's fun. It's a
Save
fun
the
little
Princess,
comic book.
it's
It's
called.
funny.
And but again, really well done
Yeah.
for a little bitty comic. That's great production value. It's really good.
Are those photographs? Yeah, I guess they're photographs, but
They're
it looks like they're
photographs, yeah.
photographs, but like he went over them with something like he inked them
Well,
over.
are almost
something.
they almost look like computer generated figures.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They look like photographs. It's just get it, and we'll give you his address. Ask him for one of these. You got to see it.
All of this is in this little package. In this little package.
Yeah, it comes in a little.
This is just some of this, and there's
package
one
right
more. There's this one, which you showed at the beginning.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
Hunt Bowman, Hunt Bowman and the Lost World.
Yeah.
Again, a really cool artwork and stuff. Very
Beautiful.
small. You got to zoom in on this, people.
Yeah,
But
beautiful artwork.
there's those tones again.
Bagdon, really very good. Great artist.
Yeah, and
Very well done.
and it's like there's this guy. He's sort of a barbarian kind of guy, sorta, and he lands on an alien world, and
Yeah.
by Joe, you know, and
Hard to.
looks like something crashed over here. I got to read it again. I think I read it last night, you know, but he meets this lady, and, you know, and things are going good. But it's like a prelude to, I think there's, you know, something else is coming up with this.
Well, I think so. These are all little samples of what's coming.
Yeah, this is inspired stuff. And in the editorial on there, he says, Joe says, "Welcome to the return to the golden age of comics. Comic that you hold in your hands is based on Fiction House's The Lost World that appeared in Planet Comics from November 1942 to 1950. And he's reviving these characters and putting his own spin on it.
Yeah.
And so pretty cool stuff.
Pretty neat.
Pretty cool. And you know, I've really been impressed with Joe's artwork.
Oh.
I've really been impressed with this.
Yeah.
It's so dynamic and it's so nice, and it's it's you know what I had to do, because I was sitting here last night, and as I said, I'm 66 years old, and it was kind of dark in here, and I was reading these comics, and I was reading them like this.
Yeah.
I spent like an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I highly recommend this.
Absolutely.
Like I say, the production values are just terrific. So that's really good stuff. Yep.
What else we got?
Get this out of my way. I'll put it over here. And what do we want to look at next?
Let me see. I don't know. I published a couple of books. What do you think?
Sunwing?
Oh, yeah, I did that.
Sunwing.
I had something to do with that.
Yeah. Number 6. And now these have quite a, in between issues is quite some time, right?
That's the back cover by Doug Freeman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of the guy that wrote it.
Oh man, a handsome guy.
Yeah.
He just needs to grow a mustache. He looked better with a mustache. That guy, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I was going to draw a mustache on this, just to keep up with you. And as long as I can erase it, because next week you probably won't have a mustache, and then I could erase it off here.
Well, like the last issue of Sunwing was number 5, which comes before number 6, and that's the one where Larry Blake was ill, and he wasn't well, and he wasn't up to the to being able to write or illustrate the issue. We've had different people writing it. Steve Skeets wrote one issue, and I wrote a couple, and Larry wrote a couple, and but last time Larry wasn't well, so I wrote it, and Scott McClung, another great small press comic artist, Scott McClung illustrated that. But this time around, Larry's back up to speed. Larry's Larry sent me the pencils, and let me show you.
I'd like to see the pencils, because look at the finished artwork. Wow.
Larry, you see, everybody sends everything, through the internet. Everybody, but Larry hasn't had.
Doesn't do.
He had a computer, but he never used it. He doesn't. So for some reason, he's old style.
Yeah.
Old school, and he's such an awesome artist. But he does everything the old way.
Right.
Like we used to do back in the 70s and stuff. I used to get
Still doing it. Yeah.
Artists or art and everything through the mail. This is the size, and this isn't. This picture's not in this issue. This is for something upcoming. This is by Tom Ahern, but it was this size. This is the artwork that he sent me was 11 by 17 inches.
Wow.
This size. Now this, by the way, this is a sneak preview by Tom Ahern. Tom Ahern actually wrote. He penciled and inked this issue, and it's coming. It'll this picture, and it'll appear in the next issue of Mantra. In a few months.
Wait a minute, you confused me. You said Tom Ahern. Did he just do the inks? Larry's pencils?
Tom Ahern penciled and inked this.
Oh, I thought you were showing me something from Larry Blake. I'm sorry.
No, what I'm showing you is the size.
Oh, okay.
The size of Larry Blake's artwork.
Yeah.
I do have the originals over here somewhere, but Larry, the thing is, oh, what the heck?
Don't mind Steve's back. He'll be back in a moment.
Here we go. Larry Blake's original artwork, inked by Tom Ahern.
Oh, wow.
And this is for the cover. You see the final result here, the cover.
Yeah.
Which the cover was a collaboration. Larry sent me the pencils this size, and I mailed the artwork to Tom Ahern, who inked it.
Wow.
And then Dave Brandstetter came along and agreed to add the colors.
You got everybody involved in this. Holy cow.
So, I wanted to have a really nice cover. And I think
everybody did a great
really
job,
cover,
that's for sure.
So, but that's what Larry does is his pencils this size. And he sends them through the mail. Everything's done through the mail, the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. There's some other.
But Larry penciled this issue, and Tommy Ahern inked it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's got everything. I mean, it's got superheroes. It's got monsters. I had a
Well, it's
blast
got
putting this together.
heavy metal music, you
Yeah.
know, which is what this story is basically kind of about. Real different take on Sunwing.
So this came together pretty quickly. Once Larry sent me the pencils, it was like, wow, this needs to come out. I've got the complete pencils here, and
Look at that.
Larry wrote it also.
Yeah, he wrote it, and if you know Larry Blake, you can kind of see how he writes. Similar, you know, in a lot of ways of other things.
His style and Tom Ahern's inking style, I think they blend really well.
Yeah.
They're like, it's just like they're made for each other.
I would think if Larry was inking it, it would look just like this, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think it would. I think it would look just like this. I would
that's what I
never
mean.
know that Larry had not inked it, you know.
Yeah, he's still having some problems
Really?
inking. With inking, he can pencil, but he's having a little problem with holding the pen for the inks. And so that's why, and Tom has worked with Larry before, so they're friends. And
They know, okay.
He was a perfect choice.
Yeah.
Now, the next issue of Sunwing, we're already talking about it. And we'll see if Larry can pencil it, Tom will probably want to ink it again. So it will be a continuation of this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Also in the book, we have wing mail. People
Wing mail.
writing in about the last issue, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Number of
nice
folks
letter
that
from
have-
Mike Tuz.
Yeah, number of folks. We're getting a warning. We're running out of time. That should not be.
Yeah, it says there's 9 minutes and 50 seconds left.
The free one is supposed to be unlimited unless they changed it because of inflation.
That
Anyway.
wouldn't surprise me the way things are going right now.
Anyway, if it runs out, we'll make
And
it,
we'll start over.
we'll start over. Okay. So
There's an illustration. There's an illustration in the letter called by yours truly.
oh
This
yeah.
kind of shows you. This kind of shows you why I usually I write instead of draw my own comics.
Well, there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Doesn't compare to the other artwork in the issue,
It's-
but I just felt like doing it.
but I think it would be just great if you drew it, the whole thing.
Well, I've done,
I really do.
if I'm inspired, I can do something. I drew a Beacon comic a couple of years ago for Jim Maine. That turned out pretty well. I'm
It's,
good when I have a good inker. I mean, I'm acceptable when I have a good inker. The inker carries the
Yeah,
artwork.
it's a lot of work, but
But I like to
I
write
just wanted to
comics.
show one more thing from Larry Blake, classic. This is his version of Van Helsinger, which is part of the story. And this group, the band is called the Transylvania Hellbillies. And they're in the story.
Hellbillies.
Yeah, they're in the story also, along with
Yeah.
Helsinger.
But the
That's a
original
comic
artwork is
book.
here.
Yeah, yeah, really cool. Anyway,
And got,
what's the
my
price
pal
on
Brad-
this, Mr. Keeter? What is the price on this? The price?
It says $4.50 postpaid, because the
Okay.
color covers cost me a bit, but actually I would say $4 postpaid if you want to order. You can order it on eBay if you like, or just PayPal to stevepeter@gmail.com. $4.
Okay, great. Great, great, great. All right. What do we have next? Oh, I know. We got another Steve Keeter publication that we haven't shown before. And that is The Beacon #3.
Oh my gosh, I feel so self-indulgent for this
Yeah,
episode.
well, that's okay. They're comics. We got to show them.
Yeah, well, that one, Kurt Erickson and I did. This was like 50 years in the making. Dan Burke got involved in it somewhere, but actually the original script was written by Kurt, like back in the 1970s.
Well, here's Dan Burke artwork, if I can get it to.
And the one on the left is my artwork. The one on the right is Dan. Yeah. Yeah, Dan did the first. it's crazy because we left this. Kurt kind of he vanished from small press for like decades until I was able to talk him into coming back recently.
Mm-hmm.
This has happened before. I have an influence. I don't know. It's a gift.
Yeah.
But,
called
but
nagging.
nagging. Yeah, nag.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kurt wrote this issue of.
I
And
thought
then
that a
later,
number of people wrote parts of this story. Is that true?
yeah, Kurt wrote it, and I was drawing it, and I did the original artwork, but I didn't finish it. I drew like 7 or 8 pages, and everything just kind of, I don't know, somewhere along the line it got put aside, and it wasn't finished until decades later when I got back in touch with Kurt, and I dug up this original script, and I thought. And the artwork that I still had, the penciled artwork, and I thought, man, we ought to finish this. This is a pretty funny story. And so I reached out to Kurt, and first I did some revisions on the script because since it was written 45 years ago or whatever, things have changed kind of, so I needed some updating. So I wrote that, and then I thought, I asked Dan Burke to illustrate it. Dan did three pages, and he had to bail for some odd reason. So I reached out to Kurt, and I said, Kurt, would you be interested in finishing the artwork on this thing? And so he did. I also added a few extra panels, and it ended up being a 3-man effort in a comic book of 5 decades in the making.
Yeah, the story is. I don't know how to describe it exactly. I think it kind of changes course a little in the middle.
Yeah, it's wild. Especially the pages that Kurt added. What I had.
Yeah.
It changed course somewhere along the line.
That's what I thought.
Somehow we put it all together and made it work.
Yeah. So back
it
here, it does say Burke, Erickson, Keeter. 1978 to 2022. So a long time in the making.
Yeah. Why leave it unfinished,
Yeah.
I like to do that sometimes. I still have a lot of old artwork and stuff that people did for me or that I did from back in the 1970s and whatever. And sometimes I'll dig something out and finish it. But I don't think I have any. Well, I do actually have a couple of unfinished comic stories from back then. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. Might pop up one day.
Never know. Let me just show you one that I've got here that Steve does not have. This is Nibble, and this is from Tom Cherry. And Tom sends me everything he does free of charge. And this is a mini comic, 1-panel gags. Tom is very funny guy. Tom is also an actor. He lives in Indiana. He's an actor. He does also a old-fashioned radio show, too. And I met Tom years ago at Space in Columbus, Ohio. And ever since then, he's always sent me all of his comics. So I wanted to give him a shout out for doing that. It's always great to get them. They're always funny. I'm going to give you his address in the description below. Send him a buck, see what he sends you. Most everything is usually free, but pay for some postage and you'll get a kick out of Nibble and his other characters that he does. He's a very funny guy. I really like his work quite a bit. So I wanted to show that, even though Steve didn't get this. But
I think I will order it. Based on your recommendation, I will order this.
There you go. See?
So
already got a customer from our show. Now that's pretty good. All right. Where does that leave us?
We got Endeavor.
Oh, we got Endeavor, yes.
Endeavor from Kurt Erickson with this incredible
something that wait a minute. Time out. I got Counting the Days. Did you grab that? You got it.
Grab.
Number 4. Number
4.
Yeah. By Tom Fellrath.
Mm-hmm. And the
And,
most unusual zine with the most unusual character.
that's for sure, because the guy is a hologram.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, on the first page of this is one reason why it's not a good idea to be a hologram. His wife,
Exactly,
his
right.
wife Maggie tells me that I'm on the couch until I figure out how to snuggle with her like I used to. You see,
But
that's bad.
But he can't, and it's very sad.
You can't. He's as thin as air.
Yeah.
You can see right through the guy.
Yeah, it's very sad. The artist is William Henry Cadell. The story
Yes.
written by Tom. But
Tom.
this whole issue is sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
he's in love with his wife, but he can't connect with her, you know?
Because go right through him. There's nothing to it. There's really nothing to the guy.
Yeah.
Which is the problem.
He can travel all over the world, but he can't snuggle with his wife.
Right. And this takes place, counting the days now, March 17th, 1989, and there's 11,977 days to go from this point, that point right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad. He loves her, and but he just can't be with her, and being a hologram is just, it's not enough for a relationship.
No.
So I'm not going to reveal the last panel of the story, but this is a continuing story. This is chapter 4. Tom's going to put them all into one book as soon as the entire story is told. But yeah, it's a good book. The hologram, every issue of Hologram has been excellent, and it's only 50 cents.
I mean, you can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong, and it's an excellent comic.
That doesn't even cover the postage nowadays.
I would throw in some postage money, at least a stamp or two, you know.
Yeah, I would too, sure.
You know.
Yeah.
But that's Tom Fellrath. He's only been back a couple of years, a year or two.
And he is a busy guy.
And
he's at Space this weekend, Tom.
He is at Space.
Yes,
I was just checking out their website, and next year definitely.
Oh yeah.
I'll stop by and pick you up, Larned. We're going.
Yeah, we're going to try to make it. Our next book is a big
monster.
A monster.
That's
Endeavor
right.
15. I got a
140 some pages long, 141 pages long, I think.
Yeah.
The gorgeous, beautiful cover by Paul Chadwick.
Yeah. And we're talking professional publication. I mean, that's all you can say. It's just professional.
Yeah. From my old pal Kurt Erickson. Kurt Erickson, I mentioned him earlier in the video in this show, but he was out of small press for several decades.
Really?
And
like Tom Fellrath.
Right.
Strong.
Kurt was gone for an even longer period of time.
Really?
And I was able to talk him into coming back, and I'm sure glad I did. He's put out a couple of zines since he came out, a couple of issues in Endeavor. Endeavor is mostly a fiction zine usually, although he's talking about doing an all comics issue next time, which would make it a quicker read because I've spent hours
we read
digesting this.
We decide, well, we can't give away the story.
Right.
But here's some
there is some good fiction
from Kurt Erickson right here. That's his work.
Yeah, that's Kurt's artwork there.
Yeah.
Sis and Sass.
And this one is called Sis and Sass, and these are dragons. The whole story is dragons. Really a different type thing.
Yeah, it's a family of dragons, like all in the family,
dragons,
but they're dragons.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's something else. And let me turn to it here. Give me a chance. If I can find it again real quick. Oh boy, when you want to find something, you can't find it.
I know how that, especially when you got a 141 page
Yeah.
magazine in front
Here
of
it
you.
is. This is called Pentagon Pie. Story by Kurt Erickson, art by Tim Lynch. Unfortunately, Kurt mentions that Tim Lynch has passed away,
Yeah,
but
I remember
Tim
Tim.
Lynch was very much influenced by Will Elder. Look at this artwork.
Okay, as were you.
Yes, but
Yeah, that
I never
that
achieved that kind of artwork.
wow. Yeah, that does look a lot like Will Elder. Oh my goodness.
Even the lettering is like Will Elder's lettering. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, that's
it's
really nice.
really
Really
cool.
nice.
Pentagon Pie.
Pentagon Pie.
Crazy story, which is great. But you look at this and you would think you're looking at Mad Magazine from the 50s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
It looks just like it.
yeah, and it's every bit the quality as well. You
Oh,
know,
it's unbelievable.
it's right up there. That's
Yeah,
superb.
amazing story.
As
And
far as the fiction stories go, I will say one story called Little Fantasies. It's
uh-huh.
called Little Fantasies, and I read this. This is Endeavor 15
Hmm.
many years ago. I had a copy of Endeavor number 10, which had the same story in it, but Kurt has rewritten the story for this issue, and there's some
Oh,
artwork
yeah.
by Neil Ryle um, for this fiction story.
Uh-huh.
But it's a great story. It's an awesome story, and it connects with every comic book fan because what we have here is a guy who has a friend who's like a professor and has created a time machine, and he uses the time machine to send this guy. His name is Jim, I think, and he sends him back in time to the early 1950s to buy old EC comic books
Uh-huh.
to bring back to the present so they can sell them and make a lot of money, you know, thousands of dollars because now they're really valuable. And he gives them a whole bunch of he just happens to have a whole lot of quarters, like rolls and rolls of quarters from pre 1950, so really old quarters. And he gives them all these quarters, puts them in the time machine, sends him back in time. And the guy goes to a it's not a comic book shop, but they didn't have them back in those days. But he goes to a grocery store where they have a comic book rack, and he grabs up all the EC comics, you know, multiple copies, and buys them all with these old quarters. And it's an incredible story.
Had to be old
It's an
quarters.
incredible story. Mm-hmm. So he's using all these old quarters.
Yeah.
And you know, and then you know they make a big haul, thousands of dollars. You know, there were 10 cents each.
Yeah.
10 cents each. But when he brings them back, there were thousands. So and he goes back again, and he goes back again, and he goes back again, all in the same day. He makes like 5 or 6 trips back until there's a snag. And the last trip,
Mm-hmm.
he encounters the sheriff and accusing him of using counterfeit money. Why is it counterfeit money? Why did he think it was counterfeit money? I mean, it was quarters, legitimate quarters from pre-1950, but because, you know, if you're in 1951, 1952, and you use quarters, the quarters are new and shiny and everything, but his quarters looked old and worn out. You see, because they were 70 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the sheriff suspects, you know, the shop owner turns them over, and this of course creates complications. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story.
Don't tell the end. Never tell the end.
But it's a great story. It's a great story. Highly recommend.
There's a story about cartooning from Brad Foster.
Brad Foster, you bet.
And it's about when a cartoonist cannot get an idea to draw a cartoon.
I was just reading that one
How
a while ago.
Fight that terrible thing when you're all ready to draw and you can't think of a doggone thing to draw. So if you have that problem, make sure you get this book, and it will explain how to do it. Yeah,
Eureka.
He had an
That's
idea.
when you finally get the idea.
That's when he gets the idea.
And Brad explains, how to get the idea, how to get it. There's a lot of good stuff in here. There's all kinds of stuff, comics and text.
Oh, there's everything in here, yeah.
There's a fascinating editorial. Excuse me. There's a fascinating editorial where Kurt talks about his early days in fandom, growing up in small press, and the experiences he's been through.
Mm-hmm.
Gets into his personal life just a little bit, and it's all very fascinating. It's revealing. It tells you a lot about Kurt, who is a great guy. And I know this because I've known him since 1973, 73, I think. And
you remember, we've had a couple of comic books that featured, it featured Cthulhu.
Cthulhu or Thulu, yeah.
Again, from H.P. Lovecraft in this book. And these are kind of, first there's a series of humorous Cthulhu cartoons. And then there is, after you get through a few pages of that, there is the Cthulhu Afterward story right here.
Right. Unfortunately, I read the cartoons. I looked at the cartoons, and they were great. But unfortunately, I didn't have time to read the after story before we got started today. Did you read that one?
I did, but I don't want to. I hate to give the whole thing away. We're trying to promote the comic, the book, and then we tell you all what's in it, so then you don't need it. But
well, the thing about one thing I will say about these illustrations is they are by Rod Snyder, and Rod Snyder was he was an old friend of mine. He's passed away years ago, but Rod was an old friend of mine. He was one of the original. Not the original members of the UFO, the UFO after when I took over, so we knew each other, and he did work for me, and I don't think I ever did anything for him, but he did work for me, and he was a UFO member, and he was a great guy, and so I really hated when I heard that he had passed away, but he was a greatly talented person. The captions on these cartoons are by Dave Mcdonald. And I'll say something about Dave Mcdonald, who is still with us, by golly. There was a story in here called The Laughing Dinosaur, with art by George Coachell. And this is a text fiction story. Okay? And this is one of the funniest things I've ever read in my entire life.
Yeah, right.
Here goes the microphone. This has to happen at least once on every show, maybe twice.
Well, while you're fixing that, let me tell you, there's also, which I think is really cool, meet the writers and the artists. And there's a little article about each artist from the issue that tells you about them. It's I think it's a wonderful thing to do when you have a a magazine that people contribute to. And he promotes the artists.
Tell us something about the
by each month. And I think that's great.
Anyway, Dave McDonald did. We worked together. He was in some of the early Mantra issues, My Comic Mantra back in the 70s. But he did a lot of work for a lot of people. And he was really funny, really funny guy. And I don't know when this story was written, but I think it's probably an older story that Kurt pulled out of and decided to, finally we're going to print this one.
Yeah.
But it has the Shadow Nose. That's the Shadow Nose, N-O-S-E, and Doc Garbage, who's a satire on Doc Savage. And they're fighting mobsters dressed in dinosaur costumes. And you start reading this before you get, a couple of paragraphs in, you're laughing out loud. It is so funny. Dave was a comic book genius, but
wow,
he's one of the most talented comedians I know on the printed page, at least.
Yeah. Great.
I definitely recommend that story. Read that one. You're just gonna
And this is
fall apart.
this is $9.
And worth every
You know,
penny.
I mean, for a book that thick, $9. You can't really go wrong. You can take you a while to read this. Really, I mean, this is just awesome. Really great. Hey, I wanted to do one more thing here.
You can find. Oh, by the way, you can find this on Amazon. Endeavor is on Amazon.
Yeah, it
Check
is
it
on
out.
Amazon. That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah. For all you cartoonists out there, I found at Walmart this set of markers that are gray tones.
Ooh.
There's 6 markers and a blender in here. And the markers are, these are the markers.
There's a
And they
blender
are,
in there.
huh?
There's a blender in there.
There's a blender in there
Can-
for the markers.
Can I make milkshakes?
Yeah, yeah. Real tiny ones, real small, fit inside here. But
My
this has a
apologies, sir.
thick end and a pointed end.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been looking for gray tone markers for a long time. And every time I would see them, maybe at Michael's or maybe Hobby Lobby, they're over $30, something like that. This is at Walmart for $7. $7 for this. And they are fantastic. I couldn't believe it. Here's some something I'm working on. And you can see how the look at the markers.
Oh man, that looks nice.
They're beautiful.
That looks really nice.
They are really good. I would recommend these markers to anybody. I know a lot of people do their shading on the computer. I've never had much luck with that. It seems like every time you go to fill in, it doesn't go all the way to the line. And you got to fill in, with the computer or mouse, that little piece. If you do them this way, you don't have to fool with any of that. I really think these are a great buy. $7, and maybe it's a little more than 7, but under 8. I should have bought another box
Beats the
of them,
competition.
actually. Yeah, these are great. So I just wanted to throw that out there for the guys that do cartooning and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I should experiment more with markers and stuff. And it's been
they're great. These
I'm
are
obviously way rusty on my artistic skills. I used to be a lot better artist years ago, but it's my fault. I didn't keep at it,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep practicing. One time, years ago, Larry Blake told me, and I asked him, how can I improve as an artist? And he said, draw.
Draw.
Keep drawing.
Keep on
Practice,
drawing.
practice,
That's what I'd
practice.
say too.
And
That's what I'd say, because
and,
I didn't draw for a long time, and I could tell I lost a lot.
yeah.
I've
But
been
what you
drawing
just
more,
what you just
coming
showed
back.
us looks really nice. That looks
That's a
that
new
looks
one
really
coming.
sharp.
Just
Mhm.
started, so that one's coming. So anyway, that'll be coming up. And speaking of coming up, we are going to have a fantastic show next time. We've got all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
So we're going to
On the
be
way.
more frequent with what Steve has done with purchasing some books for both of us. Our shows are going to be more frequent. So you want to make sure you subscribe and then click the bell notification button so you know when we have an episode up. But they should be coming up more frequently than they have been.
Absolutely. And we'll be doing more interviews too here and
Yeah,
there.
we're going to do interviews, so that'll be. We don't usually do reviews when we do interviews, so those will be separate episodes. So you're going to see a lot of us. Unfortunately, maybe, but you will see a lot of us. So that's it for this time, and like I say, we will see you next time. Boink.
Okay.
I wanted to mention. It just went out of my head. It was very important. 1 second. What was I going to say?
That's what happens with me too.
Yeah, it went right out of my
All the
head.
time.